Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Nevada, a 6-issue miniseries written by Steve Gerber for Vertigo Comics in 1998. The pencils are by Phil Winslade, the very detailed English cartoonist, and the inks, for the most part, are by Steve Lealoha. Dick Giordano does an issue or two near the end on inks. So this is, if you're a fan of Steve Gerber, this is everything you want it to be. I never realized until last night rereading these, because I hadn't read these maybe since they came out, maybe since the 2000s, is like Steve Gerber, one of my favorite writers, definitely of the 70s. You know, he was definitely 5 notches above every other writer. You know, guys like him and Don McGregor were just not putting out hack work, obviously. They were putting their heart and soul into comics. Maybe for the first time in mainstream comics history, these guys were offering up personal visions, personal insights. And I gotta say, 90s Gerber, when he kind of comes back to comics for reals, you know, starts doing stuff for Vertigo. He did that comic Hard Times, or is it just Hard Time? He got better. And because, you know, in the 70s, Howard the Ducks and Man Things, some of the balloons are a little clunky and the jokes are a little goofy and weird. But this is, I think, even better written than his classic stuff. It's really fun stuff. Very Steve Gerber, which is Gerber-esque. Maybe that's an adjective that will be put in the dictionary soon. So let's start with number 1. Beautiful, painted. Well, I don't know if these are painted. I think they're painted. Covered by Phil Winslade. Phil Winslade is just really photorealistic. This guy can do anything he wants. Even though I find his art problematic for some nebulous reason. He's not one of my favorite artists. I don't know why. Because when I look at it, his art, he's got everything. He should be one of my favorite artists. But I think something about, I don't know, maybe the way he draws faces or something. It's always a little stiff and awkward to me, his art. Even though it's obviously very accomplished and very, like this guy knows what he's doing. But his painted covers are all beautiful. I think he puts more time into them as far as composition and everything else. Because, you know, when you're drawing a comic, you got to draw basically 750 little drawings every issue. So, of course, it's going to not be as slick and perfect as the covers. This is an interesting thing in the comic. Steve Gerber did this even back in the 70s, having like a page of prose to speed the story along. And this basically is about an altercation between a prostitute and her John. And the John is very angry because he came too quick. And then he's like, what, $100 for 3 minutes? And she's like, yeah, it's not my fault. So he like gets mad at her, throws an ashtray, and she just runs out. Contents page. And then we start off with a murder scene at the Nile Hotel and Casino. And we see, I love this. The police guy, he's doing the chalk around the corpse, but these legs are standing, so he's just outlining the feet. I never saw that idea before. Very clever. We're also introduced to the local sheriff, Blount. His name is Blount. That's a hard word to say. Hard name. It's very odd. And we see him talking to his fellow officers and to the maid. She didn't see anything. She came upon this horrible scene just that morning. And we find out what the hell happened. Well, we don't really know what happened, but this guy, his standing legs cut off at the waist are just standing there in this hotel room. And the top half of his body is sitting in the bathtub. And all of the cops are just like, I've never seen anything like this. What the fuck? Okay, let's talk to the manager, Shane Zaubeck. So they go to Zaubeck's office. And, of course, he wants something done about these murders. This isn't the first one. It's not the first weird murder at his casino. Of course, he wants to avoid bad publicity. So Zaubeck has an assistant. This guy, Lefkowitz. And he's, after the sheriff leaves, they have a little meeting. And Lefkowitz tells him that there's some weird, something going on weird with the computer system. And he's never seen anything quite like it. And the computers run everything in the casino. You know, even the laser that shoots out from the top of the pyramid. That's the casino is a pyramid shape with a laser shooting into the sky. When he looks at the code, you see all these ones and zeros, and then you see some Egyptian hieroglyphics here and there. So it's a complete mystery. We have another page of prose now. And this is from the point of view of a character we're about to meet. As you can see, this art is, like, look at the wrinkles on his suit here. Phil Winslade knows what he's doing. But I don't know, something like this face here irks me. There's faces throughout this comic that I'm just like, I don't like that. And even just the way she's jogging, her position's kind of stiff. So here we meet our main character, Nevada, and her ostrich. And she's a Vegas showgirl. And this truck pulls up and almost runs her off the road. Almost kills her. And she knows who it is. It's basically some dejected lover who's kind of becoming a stalker. So she hobbles to her job, and it turns out she's very good friends with Lefkowitz, the assistant to the manager. And he's like, God, you got to report this. What are you, crazy? This guy's a psycho. And she's like, he's got a cute ass. I don't really care. She's basically, we find from the dialogue, she's tough as nails, this woman. Nevada's very tough. She can take care of herself. So even though she's got a hurt ankle, she goes on stage and does her act. And we even get this song here, which I'm pretty sure Steve Gerber wrote. I don't think this is a real song, about Isis and Osiris. And, you know, Osiris was the one who was chopped up and scattered across Egypt. And then Isis collected all of his body parts. So it kind of resonates with these murders where the people are chopped in half. I kind of like this page, just them dancing. So she gets a call from that stalker guy, and she's basically like, gives him the kiss off. And once again, we see she's pretty tough. She's just like, yeah, we had our fun. It's over, Dolan. Grow up and deal with it. And now we cut away to the owner of the casino. And this guy's name is what is his name? I forgot. Di Vesuvio. And this is one of his flunkies. Damn it, I can't remember his name. Who cares? We'll find out soon enough. As the camera pulls up, we see that Mr. Di Vesuvio's got a very strange head, which I'm going to just tell you what, it's a lava lamp. Well, it's made more clear. You can kind of tell just by the shape of it. But that is such a Steve Gerber idea, having a guy with a lava lamp head for no really good reason. So now we have another page of prose here. And Blount, the sheriff, is looking at surveillance tapes, trying to figure out what the hell happened. He does see two likely suspects, the prostitute who left the room. They figure out that she was the one who was probably in that room with the deceased. And this crazy old homeless guy, Ogden S. Locke. Turns out he was the one who did that, narrated that earlier prose page. And he basically sounds like a maniac. So the prostitute, basically no leads. She says, yeah, I heard him scream. And I was already halfway down the hall, so I wasn't going to go back. And I hightailed it out of there. The sheriff believes her. And then they call it Ogden. And Ogden is just ranting and basically saying that in his crazy mind, which we're going to find out is not so crazy, part of his job is he has to stay drunk. That's necessary for his job. So they say, okay, we're going to keep you overnight, give you a nice breakfast tomorrow. And Ogden's actually relieved. He's like, yeah, I could take a night off. Now we see Nevada and one of her colleagues, Bianca. She's a really close friend. They're really close friends. And more of this really good dialogue, really naturalistic. We definitely get a sense of the characters just from their dialogue. He doesn't have to tell us. He just shows us through the dialogue. There's that casino with the laser in the background. Yeah, for the most part, I really like Phil Winslade's art. I mean, it's amazing, the detail he puts in. But just, I don't know why. Every now and then, a certain way he draws bodies or faces, just not a fan. Well, I'm kind of a little bit of a fan. I always think it's pretty good when he draws a comic. But with his skill, I'm always surprised that it's not better. And then as she goes out for drinks with Bianca, and as she's leaving, her stalker attacks, and he basically is accosting her, grabbing her, and she just grabs her keys and jabs him in the eye. And then she tells her ostrich bolero, she says, kill! And the ostrich attacks him. And she basically says, you ever come near me again, you're fucking dead. Later, and now we cut back to the Nile Casino, and we see the kitchen staff. And it's late at night, and one of the guys reaches in for a head of lettuce, and there's a head in there. And the guy in the meat locker sees two hanging arms. So another murder has occurred. This is nice, just getting a nice little kind of editorial from Steve Gerber, talking about where this comic came from. Howard the Duck number 16, which I really want to show off one day. I'll get around to it, I promise. It was one of the strangest issues that Marvel Comics or any mainstream publisher had ever made. Maybe even non-mainstream publisher. I guess Steve Gerber was late. So instead of just being late, he wrote like, I don't know, 10 short prose pieces, which kind of each one spread across 2 pages. Got all these various artists to illustrate them in non-comic form, just do a little illustration. And they published that. Marvel Comics published this crazy issue of Steve Gerber just doing kind of a personal rant about the comics industry, about his life. And one of the 2-page spreads, which was kind of funny, was, you know, it basically said obligatory fight scene. Because every Marvel comic editorial dictate was that you have to have a fight scene. We don't care what you do. Well, they do care what you do, but definitely got to have a fight scene. So he thought it'd be funny to have this showgirl and this ostrich fighting a killer lampshade. Obviously, no plans were ever envisioned for these characters, I'm sure, but he just thought it was funny. And then years later, as the years went on, every now and then at a convention, someone would be like, hey, are you ever going to bring back that showgirl and the ostrich? And he was like, no, that was just a dumb little gag. But over the years, he started, I guess Neil Gaiman himself on a CompuServe message board, he joined in, said, hey, you got to do something with those two. So Steve Gerber started thinking about it. If Neil Gaiman thinks it's a good idea, maybe it is. And that's the genesis of this series, Nevada. Pretty weird beginning. Nevada number 2. Look at this great cover where Phil Winslade is drawing what it looks like if you're at the bottom of a pool looking up with the shimmering water effect. And I'm pretty sure this is like not computerized art. I don't think computers were good enough then. So that's some pretty amazing level of craft doing stuff like that. course, start off with the prose page, and we see Ogden in jail, and he's talking to the wall. He calls him the chief. It's almost like he takes orders from this entity who appears like this, and he's chewing him out because he hasn't been drunk. And he's like, okay, boss, I'll get drunk as soon as I get out of jail. So it really does seem to be part of his mission is he has to be drunk to do it properly. So once again, another crime scene. Blount comes back to the casino to investigate this new murder. It obviously doesn't add up. It's another crazy murder that nobody can figure out what the hell's going on. And the victim's wife comes in, and she's crying over him. So then, what happened to the rest of his body? Well, it was found in the pool. Torso and legs with no head or arms, the rest of that guy's body. Apparently, a guest, a woman, swam right into him and almost drowned from shock. And her husband is berating the staff, telling them how he's going to sue their pants off. So this is getting out of hand. Now we're back with Nevada, and we have another prose page. So Nevada's talking to Lefkowitz, her buddy, and they're just talking about the whole situation. Worried that they're going to have to shut down the casino. And now we're back with Rafael di Vesuvio. So apparently he has some past with Ogden. I couldn't quite figure it out. It's kind of left nebulous. But it's almost like Ogden at one point, I think before he became the agent of this entity, he traded him or turned him over to this corporation that did this experiment on him that turned his head into a lava lamp. So very strange. So he's talking to Nico, his assistant. And Nico is keeping Di Vesuvio abreast of what's going on at the casino. And he basically tells Nico to bring him Ogden Locke. So back at the jail, they're releasing Ogden. The sheriff takes him out to breakfast to find out what the hell's going on. He asks him about how he got to be in this homeless state. I guess he was a professor of theoretical physics. And there was a car accident. His kids died. His wife lost sight in one eye. And he got injured. The only thing that helped the pain was drinking alcohol. So he became just lost his wife, lost everything else, his job. Once again, just scenes of two guys talking in a diner. There's really good stuff from Gerber. And, I can't read all the dialogue to you, but there's actually a lot of funny stuff in here. He's also telling him how this whole thing with the chief works. I guess he's not that good at thought transference. That's why he has to be loaded to talk to the chief. And he keeps talking about Sweet Legs, someone named Sweet Legs. He seems obsessed with her. That first prose page in the first issue, it was all him talking about Sweet Legs and how he kind of wants to protect her. It turns out it's Nevada, because he looks out the window and he says, oh, that's That's who I'm talking about, Sweet Legs. She just happens to be going to the laundromat next door. As she's doing her laundry, she catches the eye of this blonde dude, and he obviously is pitching woo to her. He's a massage therapist, and he helps her ankle. He does something to her ankle, makes it feel better, and then he basically asks for a date, asks if he can take her out to dinner. And then Nevada has this, in the middle of the parking lot, turns around. She sees this caveman, and then she sees Moses holding the 10 Commandments over his head, the tablets. So she's just having these crazy time-twisted hallucinations. And then right as she comes out of it, Blount comes up. And he basically goes up to her and points to, what's his face? Ogden. And he just says, hey, ma'am, have you ever seen this guy before? Well, he likes your legs. He's got some kind of fantasy about you and him in the 10th dimension. So here's my card. Give me a ring if he ever bothers you. So he doesn't, you know, Blount does not really believe all this metaphysical hoodoo that Ogden's telling him. But he knows that Ogden, he believes him that he was a really brilliant guy at one time. Okay, this is a very silly thing to say, but it seems like a lot is made about her sweet legs. And I don't know if Phil Winslade just has weird taste in women, but she has terrible legs. They're just these scrawny broomsticks. And everyone in the comic keeps saying, like, oh, man, that she's got nice legs, that gal. But they're, I don't know, I guess it's a personal thing, huh? But they're pretty not attractive legs. But I shouldn't even open my mouth. That's pretty dumb to mention. Okay, now Nevada's back at the casino, chatting with Lefkowitz once again, her buddy. And Lefkowitz is telling her about the whole thing with the computer and how the laser beam is almost compromised. There's some weird information going through the laser which shouldn't be. Like almost like a glitch or something. And Nevada keeps having these hallucinations. She's in the bathroom, and all of a sudden, she's in the Colosseum in Rome or something. Or maybe just in Rome. And then she meets Ogden in the hallucination. And he's trying to warn her. He says that nail time is coming. It's apparently some apocalyptic type of event. And then she kind of wakes up. Of course, Ogden's gone. And then this crazy thing kind of is attacking her. She keeps evading it. But it's so fast you can't even see it. It's just like a lightning bolt. It's just zipping around the bathroom and outside the bathroom. And finally, Nevada picks up some scissors and she leaps at it and somehow catches it and just repeatedly stabs it and kills it. And when it finally slows down enough so you could see it, look at this horrible thing. It's so, oh my God. It's like Charles Burns couldn't draw anything that repulsive. We'll find out next issue what it is. Another really nice cover from Winslade. Man, that guy's got the goods. We got another prose page. And basically it's Sheriff Blount questioning Nevada about the incident. I guess when she stabbed the thing, all this like icky, weird blood got in her hair. And she can't really even wash it out. It's so nasty. So she tries to cut her own hair, Makes a big mess of it. Her own ostrich is almost scared of her because she looks so bad with her new do. Then we see Blount at night. He goes down to the alley. He's looking for Ogden, and he finds him. And he says, "You were supposed to not bother Nevada. I told you." And she says, "You were in her dressing room today." He denies it. He says he's been in the alley the whole night, and his homeless friends corroborate his story. Kind of like this, the coloring during the night scene. I should mention this is, maybe I should shout out the colorist. It's Nathan Eyring, never heard of him. And one of the great letterers of comics lettered this, John Workman. I didn't mention that either. So right after the sheriff leaves, these two like mafioso thugs show up in a limo and they grab Ogden. The next morning at the beauty parlor, Nevada's getting her hair corrected, if you will. She's trying to make something of it. I kind of like, for some reason, how all these businesses we've seen are all in the same strip mall. The diner where Blount took Ogden, the laundromat where Nevada goes, this hair salon. And as she's at the hair salon, though, she has another hallucination, and she's in the reign of terror at an execution. And the head falls out of the basket right into her lap, and it's her beloved ostrich's head. But then she wakes up. Thankfully, Bolero is fine. This is the prose pages about the autopsy of that crazy critter that tried to kill Nevada. It's so, I guess this creature, the product of its digestive process is something akin to human brain tissue. It uses this tissue to think in a very limited way. It would be a very efficient organism if not for its incapacity to store sensory data as long-term memory, because sooner or later it craps away everything it learns. So basically this thing has got shit for brains, or brains for shit. So I just thought that was an interesting sci-fi concept. So Nevada's very pleased with her new haircut. That blonde hunk from the laundromat, Jeff, he's kind of angry with her because she was supposed to have a date with him last night, but because of the crazy attack from that monster, of course she didn't show up. And then she sees Ogden. So she just like says, "Sorry, Jeff, I gotta go." And she runs after Ogden. And when she turns the corner, man, this is, just forget everything I said about Phil Winslade here, because I love this little spread. We see basically Ogden is like as this warrior angel type thing. And he's fighting these insane looking monsters. Kind of H.R. Geiger knockoffs. He's saying, "Die, cabbage spawn." And he's talking in this old-timey, almost like Thor, how Thor talks in the old comics. So that's what he's seen in his head, but then I guess he comes down. So he's in this closet. The mafiosa guys who grabbed him, they threw him in this closet with no booze, but somehow he got booze. And the mafiosa is just like, "How the fuck did you get that? We make sure that there's no alcohol in here." And he has a little parlay with his chief again. Now we're back with Nevada. She realizes Ogden probably was just a hallucination. And her and Jeff have a little talk. And he offers to buy her some tea. And she spills her problems to him. And Jeff tells us about himself as well. So, of course, as you probably imagine, those mafioso guys worked for Mr. Vesuvio, and they bring Ogden to his office. And he talks more about the whole betrayal. Still kind of vague exactly why he did it, what happened. But something basically, he betrayed him, and the other guy sold him as a guinea pig to an Asian concern called Neurotech. They're researching a process called mind uploading, transferring the brain's content to an alternative storage medium. So I guess that's why he's got a lava lamp on his head. I really like this page. The panels and everything. Colors, everything. Really nice looking. So as you can see, Vesuvio can do all kinds of crazy things. Tendrils can come out of his lava lamp. He can... Man, this is another kind of a mirror image of the last page, but some of the detail in here is so beautiful. Phil Winslade's really good when he's good. Which is most of the time. So Lefkowitz wants to show Nevada this crazy thing with the laser, and they actually go up to the laser, the roof of the pyramid. And he calls it a shimmy. You can actually see it. It's almost like a particle stream. And Nevada says, what about the sound? Where does that come from? He's like, what are you talking about? And she hears this almost like the music of the spheres, you know? She hears like monks singing with a reggae beat. And she says, I think it's trying to seduce me. And she walks into the laser, and we can see that the particle stream is starting to wrap around her. So we'll find out what happens. Oh man, another great cover. Kind of like the guy in Moonshadow. very, very similar. But of course, more photorealistic. So she enters into this particle stream, and it kind of grabs her up and sucks her up the laser. Her friend tries to stop it, but he can't. Another really nice page with just all around these great colors for the laser. The body language, all very good stuff. Oh, this page is nice. Look at that. That's pretty wicked. She's just flying through the laser beam straight up to the sky. So Ogden is watching this from the street, and he's like, this is what I didn't want. And this is exactly what I was supposed to protect her from this kind of stuff. Now we see Mr. Vesuvio. He's basically on a date. I don't even know if he knows this woman that well. And all of a sudden, it's like his brain gets fried and scrambled. It's almost like Ogden is entering his brain, because he starts just babbling about sweet legs, the things that Ogden has been babbling about, just more incoherently. And then one of his tendrils comes out, stabs this woman, but then we see almost like maybe what's really going on in the metaphysical plane, and it's Ogden, as you know, in his warrior guise, running this demon through with a sword. So I'm not really sure what the hell's going on here, but it's wicked cool. It's a pretty great panel. I mean, I get the gist of it. Like, their two brains are melding. And meanwhile, in the prose pieces here, like the first page, Nevada is in this weird void. And this guy is questioning her. Of course, just weird, surreal shit's going on. It's a Steve Gerber comic. As this sheep shows up and it says mutton and then just explodes. Look at that. That's really nice Winslade art. And we keep seeing this motif. Hammer, walnut. Hammer, tomato. Hammer, vision. And once again, Nevada starts tripping through time. She's at Caligula's, one of Caligula's orgies. She pops up. And then Caligula shoves her right into a death cart, or whatever they called those things during the plague, where they collected their dead. And she's accused of being a witch. So these guys start chasing her. Then she sees the caveman again, who likes to say Ukampatuga, which I love the fact that the letters page is called that. Steve Gerber named the letter page after that nonsense saying. And all of a sudden she's in a cave. I like this, how there's a cave drawing of her and her ostrich bolero. She basically realizes she's losing her sanity. And she's making a comparison to how it's kind of like losing your virginity. It's there 1 minute and then it's gone the next. No big deal. There's a lot of clever dialogue like that in here. Now all of a sudden she's on this elevator. And she's back in this like kind of weird Twilight Zone void place. Meanwhile, back in the real world, Lefkowitz is talking to Bianca. Nevada's two buddies are talking about what happened. Look how he draws every single person in this room. Total personality. Just so interesting. So unfortunately, because of the series of events, Lefkowitz is being blamed for a disappearance. Now we're back in the weird nether zone. Hammer, milk solids, hammer, palliative. And it's an angel statue. Hammer, grid, and it's her brain, or someone's brain. And then Ogden shows up in his avenging angel form. Be not afraid, oh sweet legs, he says. So apparently she's in the realm of the chief, the same one that Ogden works for. And basically he's trying to recruit Nevada to be a rift warrior. That's what Ogden is. That's his title. And basically they protect our realm from other realms, I guess. So he's trying to explain it to Nevada, and of course Nevada's very skeptical. And basically she's going to be tested. And Ogden's telling her, like, you know, giving her advice on how to pass the test. And she sees her ostrich with the head of Bianca. And making fun of her love of hippie songs. Throughout the comic, Nevada is always singing some like old Beatles song. So of course this is just all like a dream hallucination type thing going on. I really like this. Whew. That's a pretty impressive page there. And now she's in the far-flung future. And we see the equivalent of the caveman. He's a robot. He even says Ukimpatuga to her. But then he talks in perfect English. Man, Phil Winslade just can draw anything. And now basically it's like the supervillain team up of all these people who wish Nevada ill. And, you know, we see that guy from the cover. I don't know who the hell he is. And they're all attacking her with like laser beams. And I guess the moon isn't necessarily a villain because he actually swallows her, but just as a means to transport her back to the void. That's so gross. Basically pukes her back up. And Nevada's just pissed off. She's like, who the hell are you? What do you want from me? And she opens this curtain, and it's the chief. And she's shattered. Nevada gets shattered. Hammer, sweetness. Hammer, beans, even though it's a teddy bear. Hammer, crux, and it's a heart. So, not quite sure what that means, but it's kind of interesting. Another beautiful cover by Winslade. That's some sweet stuff. And now we start the Dick Giordano inks. I don't really see that much difference, to be honest. And then we start off with this really interesting prose bit just about what's going through Nevada's head. And she's got this crazy, weird syntax going on. Existence is Futile. That's a pretty good title. So she's kind of gotten herself back together, but she's still all shattered. That's pretty cool looking, the way he draws her. And the chief just lays it down for her. He's like, yeah, you're going to be a Rift Warrior. You have the right, something about you. You're just perfect for the job. You're strong. You're resilient. And then he says something like, now is another test. You have to contemplate the hangnail. But we cut back to Earth. And Ogden goes back to his friends in the alley. I guess there's this big fat lady who lives there. And everyone loves to rest their head on her huge gut. It's like a nice pillowy stomach. But when he does, she goes, ow. And he's got thorns coming out of his head. And then all of a sudden, the mafiosa guys show up. And they're firing at Ogden. They totally kill his friend, Abby, in the process. And Ogden uses his crazy metaphysical powers and kills the mafiosa guys. Kind of looks like Tom Sutton or something. Phil Winslade has kind of like this rigid style, but every now and then there's a panel where I'm just like, that's interesting. Like you're trying this other style out, you know? So one more prose page of Nevada talking to that chief guy, almost having a philosophical discussion. She's contemplating the hangnail, this cosmic hangnail. And then when she returns from her little hangnail experience, Ogden's there. And Ogden dies. Then Albert Einstein shows up in some kind of sci-fi suit. And they have another like mind-bending discussion about what is real, yada yada, that kind of stuff. And Albert Einstein's trying to explain to her the laser on top of the Nile. It's I guess it basically kind of like tore a skin in space. So it made a bridge in between Earth and all these parallel worlds. And that's what the Rift Warriors are protecting us from, the denizens of those worlds. Now we meet Mr. DeSuvio's niece, who's trying to help him out, dealing with Nico. And because DeSuvio is just complete, his brain is completely fucked up. It's basically half of it is still Ogden, even though Ogden died. Basically, he's incapacitated. He's useless. So back at Lefkowitz's place, he's taken in Nevada's ostrich, and Nevada's ostrich starts puking all over the place. Now back with in the other domain. Now Nevada's transported to this kind of desert island. And she sees this old man dying of starvation on the beach. And he says, please get me food. So she realizes this is another test by the chief. She climbs this huge mountain. She finds an abandoned village. And they have a huge, like, pig on the fire. So she takes it. But she's totally planning just to, you know, give the guy enough to get him back on his feet and then bring it all the way back. Because she doesn't want these poor people to starve, you know. But then the old man says, no, I want all of this food. I'm going to be hungry later. And then in their scuffle, somehow it falls in the ocean. And when the old man dives into the ocean to get it, the shark, giant shark, chomps down on him. I like that sound effect, jump. And then the tribesmen show up who she stole the meat from. She starts throwing spears at her, and she escapes. I mean, she gets a spear right through her, but it doesn't hurt her at all. She just doesn't like the aesthetics of it. She doesn't want to look like a human corn dog. So she pulls it out, and she's back in the, you know, the domain. And he tells her that she can basically think of anything and it'll happen now. She has these strange powers now. And another prose page where the chief is explaining. They're kind of having a philosophical / theological conversation. He's basically explaining the way the universe runs. The fundamental modalities of the universe are time, space, and spirit. And so she sees all the craziness in this like rift between worlds, all these crazy beings. This is really annoying because Phil Winslade goes to fucking town. Look at all this detail he did. And then the colorist, you know, he did a few of them differently and then got lazy and just did a one wash color. So it's like it's kind of obliterates it. I mean, this, if he did his job, this would be like a Jeff Darrow like spread. It would just be eye melting, I should say. It would be so good, but really, really cheeses me off. For some reason, some of the denizens of this rift are these fish drivers who drive little cars around. We'll learn more about all the denizens later. And now we have the last issue. This is a pretty wicked cover there. It looks like it could be some awesome cover for Epic Illustrated that would have confused every teenage boy. Just like, yeah, it looks cool, but why is she riding an ostrich? That's weird. Oh, and I should mention Steve Lealoha's back on inks. So I guess he just took a break. So in this prose thing, we see that Sheriff Blount is interrogating Lefkowitz. He's definitely the chief suspect because Nevada's been missing all this time. They think he killed her. And now we see Nevada reborn as a rift warrior with all these powers. See, I hate to be shallow again, but those are like the legs of a little kid. And here she is facing all of these crazy monsters. Wow, one of them has a hockey mask here. It's like Jason. I like this one. He's a big pickle head. But that's pretty. That's an amazing page right there. And she's fighting some of these monsters. Well, all of them. She's dispatching them one by one till there's none left. So she comes back to the chief's domain, and he basically says, you did very good. She's just worried that she's really worried about the Rift denizens. Are they intelligent? Like, basically, she wants to know if she was just murdered a bunch of people. And he breaks them all down. I kind of like this as a little like a who's who of the Gerber verse right here. Seraphim, these are all the creatures she just fought. Clutes, who are basically kind of devils. Cupoids, a bunch of human races from the Rift, you know, all throughout time. Oh, and here it is, the Peripherum. That's the monster who attacked her outside the bathroom. And the roadfish. Those are the ones. And even the chief is like, we have no fucking idea, you know, what they're all about. So she passes out from exhaustion. And she wakes up in the desert, seemingly back on Earth. A coyote's sniffing her. And she makes it to Las Vegas. And she's thinking to herself like, oh, nice try. Nice facsimile of Vegas. But it's way too warm for an April night. She gets picked up by this nice guy. She's hitchhiking. And she finds out that the Nile has been closed for months. So she's starting to figure it out. She jumped ahead in time. She left in like April, and basically it felt like she was asleep for a night in that other realm. It's like summer now. When she turns back to thank the old guy who gave her a lift, it's one of those fish guys. So of course she's confused as hell. She goes back to her apartment, and the landlord's in there having sex with the new tenant. She still doesn't quite get it, though, that 3 months have passed. He's like, yeah, I got rid of all your stuff. You were missing for months. And finally, the chief shows up to explain a little stuff to her. Of course, the main thing she can think about is she's like, where's Bolero, my ostrich? And we have a little prose interlude with Allegra, who's the niece of Mr. Di Vesuvio, and Nico. And they're talking about that corporation, that Neurotech, that turned Di Vesuvio into the freak that he is. They're basically trying to fix him, to get the Ogden lock part out of him, so he can be himself again. So, luckily, she goes to the animal shelter where Bianca put the ostrich. And luckily, he's still alive. And then she says, time for another jailbreak. So just some more really nice pages here. I wish I could read more of these captions to you in balloons. Gerber really does a great job. It's really nice to see like a guy in his like later years getting better. Because I really think this is better written than his classic stuff. I mean, God, I love that stuff. Some of my favorite comics ever are like Howard the Duck and Man-Thing, but this is really good. So she goes to see Blount, and everything's kind of settled. But of course, she's broke. She has no apartment. Lefkowitz is in the same position because he's been in jail for 3 months. But he still has a credit card. So, kind of a happy ending. Lefkowitz rents them adjoining motel rooms off the strip with the last of his credit. And basically, Nevada's... she took the job as a Rift Warrior, even though it has no pay. So it totally leaves this open for like a sequel. And I hope there's more roadfish in it. I like the roadfish. And apparently in this note, she says all the hallucinations stopped. She's happy that there's no warrior winos chasing her around. So what do you do when reality bites back and the new life falls apart? I can only speak for myself. Fuck it raw and keep dancing. Ukimpatu, whatever. Nice ending. Even though it's kind of open-ended. So there you go, guys. Nevada, number 1 through 6. Sorry that took a while, huh? That was a pretty long video. But it's a lot of story and a lot of characters. And definitely not hard to find these. These were in quarter bins forever. Or I keep saying that. Dollar bins. I forget what decade it is. So definitely worth picking up. Some fun stuff. Apparently there's a Nevada prequel story in Vertigo, Winter's Edge. That was one of the anthologies that Vertigo used to put out maybe once a year, where they just have little short stories of all their big series. I should have read that, but then again, I'm going to do a video on Winter's Edge eventually, so we'll talk about it then. But I hope you guys liked it. I definitely enjoyed rereading it last night. I hadn't read this in a while, and it was better than I remembered, actually. So there you have it. And I hope to see you next time here at the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.